white women, listen.
Don't pay your taxes next year.
You can hear us. Please save us. Please save us, Chairman Mao. Please.
Hey everybody, I'm Brad Polumbo, and welcome back to Brad vs. TikTok, my series where I take on the craziest and cringiest ideas going viral on the Clock app. If you're new here, settle in and consider subscribing and joining our community. We're growing really fast, and if as you're watching, you're enjoying this video, enjoying my suffering and watching me lose brain cells in real time, consider dropping a like or commenting. Now buckle up and prepare to get dumber.
Let's talk about where the word good morning originated from. Good morning. Alright, so during slavery times, when the women used to mourn about their child being taken away and sold to a different slave master, or if one of the family members did something that resulted into them getting whipped or killed, most of these things used to happen in the evening time, when a child was sold off or somebody was getting whipped for something. The black women used to cry all night behind it. Not even just the women, the black people in general, all the black slaves, male or female. When something happened to a family member or a close friend or anything, they used to cry all night behind it. And when the slaves used to cry about what happened all night long, the white slave masters, the oppressors, will wake up in the morning time and they'll tell the slaves, did you have a good morning? Basically, did you have a good cry out? Did you do enough crying last night? Because of what happened to their family member a day prior? So the white oppressors came up with good morning as a mockery towards black people.
Ma'am, I'm gonna need a source on that one, because I think she just made that up out of thin air, honestly. I've never heard of anything like that, and frankly, it's very far-fetched. So I actually went and did a little bit of research, and I found that the phrase good morning actually dates back to the Middle English period of 1150 AD to 1500 AD, and that's according to the Oxford English Dictionary, so not slavery times in America. I tried to find a source for her narrative, and when I Googled it, the only relevant result that came back was her TikTok. So this person with 2 million followers on TikTok basically seems to have made up a fake etymology of a word in some weird attempt to spin a racism narrative where none exists. I really don't understand what the need for this is unless you're just looking for reasons to inflame things and divide people, because it almost seems like, there's obviously real racism out there that still exists. I even think there are systemic issues that need to be addressed. But it seems like increasingly on social media, at least, the demand for racism and racist incidents is outstripping the supply. So they have to invent or fake or twist or distort racism where none exists, so they have something to post this weird woke victim content about. I'm not a fan of this whole genre, because even if it did have some racist origin, there's nothing racist about the way the phrase good morning is used in the year 2023. So it would all be kind of a pointless conversation anyway. And yet, it's fake to begin with. So, but of course, things like this just constantly go viral on TikTok, educating our youth. Up next, this very popular TikToker tried to relate mass shootings to his sex life.
So this dude shot a bunch of people at a restaurant, a random restaurant. Imagine getting dinner with your family and then you die. That turns me off. I'm sorry, that is just not okay.
What?
And then apparently there was a whole manhunt, and I don't know if he's caught, but the name is there, and I think hopefully he's caught now, but I see people on my For You page in Maine terrified, and there's a whole lockdown because the dude is going around, and apparently it's the deadliest shooting of 2023 so far, and it's just sour, scary. I don't understand why troubled men, or just men in general, are allowed to buy guns. I don't understand the purpose of guns in a random typical household society. I understand self-defense, I understand if you're in the army you need guns and stuff, but why don't you just get a taser gun? Why do you need a whole gun with bullets? And I feel yes, self-defense is good, but shouldn't we just ban guns from random gang people too, so that like those people can't like, there's no need to self-defend against like random criminals. I don't know. I just think there's a better way to go about it, because the loss of innocent human lives is always so like emotional for me, especially when it's at the hands of like a troubled man. Like that just always like turns me off.
It is so strange to me, like genuinely bizarre, how this TikToker decided to relate a video about mass shootings and gun control to how it turns him off. It's a little TMI and tone deaf there, Kevin. Although with this particular creator being cringe and hypersexual about things is part of his shtick, I guess. Getting to the substance of what this guy had to say, it's just so funny to me because I feel like progressives on TikTok are the first people to talk about privilege and how privileged people are in society. Yet the amount of privilege that radiates from a statement like this is genuinely astounding. I hate to break it to you, Kevin, but many Americans don't live in bougie apartment complexes in upscale neighborhoods. Many Americans live somewhere where the police are very far away. These people need firearms to defend themselves from criminals and from people who want to hurt them, and it's actually estimated by the Institute of Medicine that firearms are used in self-defense in America somewhere between 500,000 to 2 million times every single year. And I just have to laugh at the notion that, well, if we ban guns for gang people, then there wouldn't be any need for them to defend yourself. You mean the criminals who already break the law? And you can't rewrite history. I mean, we've already got 300 million plus guns out there in America, so you're not going to get them all back, and criminals will be able to get their hands on them. Folks like this just want to leave law-abiding citizens defenseless in response, and that's what should turn you off. Up next, this TikToker wants to go on a tax strike?
Don't pay your taxes next year. Keep the BDS boycotts going, they're working, but at the same time, American tax dollars are constantly being funneled into the Israel apartheid regime and the IOF forces, and I cannot sit by and condone this. I know others cannot sit by and condone this. I'm not the only one saying this. Tax strike. It's time for a tax strike. I'm doing it. I've got people on board. I'm reaching out to as many people as I can.
Okay, so I actually weirdly relate to this in that I hate paying taxes, and I swear I'm getting absolutely robbed the amount of taxes that these people take from me and the absolute state of our government that we get in return. And yeah, I also don't like the fact that my taxes are used to fund many things that I don't support and don't agree with. But I cannot recommend this strategy of a tax strike. Babe, you're just going to end up with fines and penalties from the IRS or potentially even criminal penalties. As much as I hate taxes, I don't recommend that path. I don't recommend you go down that path, folks. And it would also be nice if people like this who want to complain about taxes and call for a tax strike would stop supporting progressive policies that would force us all to pay way more in taxes. Up next, TikTokers are simping for mass murderers.
Have I ever evicted a single mother out of one of my properties? Oh yes, on multiple occasions.
Chairman Mao, if you can hear us, please save us. Please save us, Chairman Mao, please.
The comments on this are genuinely unhinged. Chairman Mao, my people yearn for freedom. Please, Chairman Mao, please save us. Be the Chairman Mao you want to see in the world. Chairman Mao, please save my country from the yoke of capitalism. This is disturbing. The original video is about a landlord explaining why he will evict a single mother who doesn't pay. And look, we can get into the whole hate for landlords on TikTok another time. I personally don't think, no matter how sympathetic your situation is, that you have a right to occupy someone else's property without paying. But regardless of how one feels about landlords, let's maybe not simp for mass murdering authoritarian tyrants. For folks who don't know, Chairman Mao was a 20th century leader of China who led a great communist revolution where millions of people died. Here's a quick history lesson for the TikTokers reading from the Washington Post, which, by the way, not exactly a conservative newspaper. Recapping Mao's legacy from 1958 to 1962, the Washington Post writes that Mao thought he could catapult his country past its competitors by herding villagers across the country into giant people's communes. In pursuit of a utopian paradise, everything was collectivized. People had their work, homes, land, belongings, and livelihoods taken from them. In collective canteens, food, distributed by the spoonful according to merit, became a weapon used to force people to follow the party's every dictate. As incentives to work were removed, coercion and violence were used instead to compel famished farmers to perform labor on poorly planned irrigation products while fields were neglected. A catastrophe of gargantuan proportions ensued. Extrapolating from published population statistics, historians have speculated that tens of millions of people died of starvation. But the true dimensions of what happened are only now coming to light thanks to the meticulous reports the party itself compiled during the famine. What comes out of this massive and detailed dossier is a tale of horror in which Mao emerges as one of the greatest mass murderers in history, responsible for the deaths of at least 45 million people between 1958 and 1962. It is not merely the extent of the catastrophe that dwarfs earlier estimates, but also the manner in which many people died. Between 2 and 3 million victims were tortured to death or summarily killed, often for the slightest infraction. So Chairman Mao was actually one of the most evil people in human history, right up there with Adolf Hitler. Yet just because he was anti-capitalism and a communist party leader, weirdo Gen Z TikTokers simp for him and yearn for him, apparently. That is genuinely delusional, and it's so dangerous because you could never imagine them saying Hitler's name in this kind of way, even if it's meant somewhat ironically, which means they actually have a good deal of sympathy for the underlying ideas of collectivist communism utopia. And guess what, folks? When you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. All right, for the last TikTok we've got on store for today, this woman has a message for all you white women out there, you dastardly folks.
Dear white women, listen. Your only play in this, if you value your life, is to shut the up. Listen exclusively to black, brown, and indigenous women, femmes, and non-men.
I'm not even a woman, and this one genuinely made me feel unsafe. Like, ma'am, did you just threaten us and tell us to not speak because of the pigment of our skin? How is that progressive, exactly? The way these far left extreme people online view race is so incredibly toxic and divisive, but the funny thing about it, I mean, it's deeply sad, but in another sense it's funny, is that it's honestly hard to even tell the difference between this and like actual white supremacists in the way that they speak, except that the words white and black are switched. I do laugh at the part where she says, though, non-men are allowed to speak. So you're telling me all Susan has to do to be allowed to speak, even though she's a white woman, is add a she/they to her bio and be non-binary or something? Make it make sense. Anyway, can we just stop with this divisive rhetoric that puts people into these groups and reinforces these divides that frankly we should want to fade into nothingness until it's meaningless, until it's like your eye color or your hair color is how we should view skin color one day. But far extreme left content like this does not get us towards that goal. It does the opposite. All right, guys, I can't really take any more TikTok today without incurring some permanent brain damage, and I need my brain for what I do. These looks will only get me so far. So I'm gonna have to call it there for today, but if you enjoyed watching me suffer through this, maybe at least reward that with a like or subscribe. If you've been watching a couple of my videos but you're not subscribed yet, yeah, I'm talking to you. Consider joining the community. We're growing so fast, and thanks again for joining me, everybody. And with that, I'll see you all in my next video. If you want more TikTok insanity, don't worry. You can go back and watch old episodes of Brad vs. TikTok here and here, because apparently you have a glutton for punishment. Go ahead, be my guest.